Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football, and this is our 2026 NFL Draft Prospect Show. I'm Harper LeBel, and I want to introduce to you Joey Clinkscales, our former general manager. He's also been a scout for 100 years and a former player, and Brian LeBel, our NFL and NCAA analyst. Gentlemen, today we're going to talk about a TCU safety. Plays big, may not be the heaviest guy you've seen out there, but he's all over the place, and that's Bud Clark. He's listed at 6'1", about 185 pounds, Joey. That's a little light for a guy like that, but he's got 13 career interceptions, 4 of them this past year, one of those for a touchdown. He got a sack this year, 56 tackles, a forced fumble, 7 passes deflected. As a safety, he's one of these guys that can sit back in coverage and almost fake out a quarterback instead of the other way around, where he understands and he knows reads real well, and he can pretend like he's going back and he can undercut a route. He is excellent at all types of different coverages, maybe a little light to be in run support at the NFL level. But, Joey, first and foremost, just give me your perspective. What is it about Bud Clark that you like?
I like a lot of things I saw in Bud Clark. First and foremost, he's a ball hawk. With 15 career interceptions at TCU, that tells you a lot about the things you like to see. You like to see a safety with range, which he has. Once he flips his hips, he's got awareness to things in front, and he's really good when he's down in the box playing that way. He does. He's a willing tackler. He's not afraid to shoot his guns and. Game from a scheme perspective. So he's really effective in the run game. He's not afraid to come up and make a tackle. His angles are a little inconsistent at times, which he can work on. Just his eyes better feel for where the ball is going. But that being said, there are a lot of things to like about this guy. He was a Senior Bowl participant. It's not a lot to dislike in Bud Clark from the standpoint of he's physical. He's tough. He's got range. He's got hands like a receiver for the most part. Again, with 15 career interceptions, he'll hit. I expect him to be the first or second safety taken off the board in this year's draft.
Well, Caleb Downs is the number 1 guy, Brian, and for obvious reasons, bigger, thicker body, rates out at a 92. This is a little bit more of a guy that's got great speed, but he's not the biggest guy. He's not the heaviest guy out there, but gosh, you sure want him in your lineup because he just plays well. He covers people like you're supposed to, and his 40 time is excellent. Everything about him seems to say that this is one of those guys, except for the fact that he's really light. I can put him on a diet. I can have him eat a second hamburger, right? I mean, that shouldn't be a big problem.
Yeah, I don't think you want to bulk up too quickly, though. I mean, he's very, very comfortable playing at the weight he is now. He plays very well, and he plays a little bit bigger than he is as far as the weight is concerned. He's not afraid to throw his weight around. One thing that really kind of jumped out at you when you watch the tape is his ability to go sideline to sideline. He's got great feet work. As Charles Barkley would say, he's got great feet work. And he's kind of sneaky, like you mentioned earlier. He's not baiting the quarterback, but he understands how athletic he is and how high he can jump and the ability to get to where, point A to point B and undercut routes. And, he was tremendous at doing that this year. In fact, a lot of the passes deflected or just dropped interceptions. He could easily have 2 or 3 more interceptions on the season. He was very, very good at undercutting routes, at anticipating. There were a couple of different instances where they're, quarterbacks running a bootleg and he understands, hey, I know I have a guy in the flat. I know I have a guy over me. I'm going to have discipline. I'm going to understand where I need to be. I've watched the tape before. I've obviously seen this play, which is, credit to his intelligence. He stays in his lane. And on one of the plays, he made interception. On the other one, the quarterback had to tuck and run it, and he ran up and helped make a game tackle. So that's, across the board, there's not a lot of negatives in his game. I think the only knock on him is his weight, but I think a team's going to feel comfortable saying, hey, we can add a little bit to it. We can get you to a more comfortable playing weight for us. But just across the board, if you watch, he's a very explosive player. He's got a lot of highlights. He plays very, very well. One thing I really liked as well in the run game, which, you kind of hate sometimes for your DBs, but every time he's coming up to make a tackle, he's trying to punch the football out, right? He's always trying to make a play. He's always trying to strip it. Joey mentioned ball hawk. he's always trying to create a turnover. He's always, trying to get the ball going the other direction. He's always trying to make a big play on defense. But that doesn't negate what he's able to do in, run support. He's not bad, right? He still makes plays. He's still a pretty disciplined tackler, and he does everything really, really well. So I think the fact that he can make the explosive plays and create the turnovers while still staying true to what they need him to do on offense, still understanding his assignments in the scheme, there's not much you watch with Bud Clark that you dislike. I think, like I said, the only thing is the weight. If he was 20 pounds lighter, we wouldn't have this conversation. He'd probably be, hands down the first or second safety going off the board. It's just,
20 pounds heavier. Excuse me.
Yes, I'm sorry, 20 pounds heavier. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If he was 205 right now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Say maybe if
he was 165, if he was
you'd have an issue. 165,
we'd be saying he's a high school All-American ready to go into the college level.
There you go. But yeah, no, he was a 4-star recruit. A lot of big schools, LSU wanted him, Oklahoma wanted him, and there's a reason for that. And I think he blossomed the last couple of years. He was banged up with some injuries early on, but one thing we kind of harp on with these DBs and a lot of these guys on defense, linebackers especially, is you got to take your lumps on special teams. And he did that at TCU. He's showed that he's willing to do that. Obviously, he's more than willing to do it at the next level. But this kid is a tremendously talented player, and I think for him, safeties are kind of overlooked a little bit because there's a lot of really good ones. But I think the sky's the limit for this kid.
Joey, Brian brought up a very interesting point early on in his conversation a couple seconds ago where he was talking about the change of direction. You mentioned he can flip his hips. You said this on other occasions. Could you do me a favor? And if this is the first time I've ever heard you say that, could you kind of explain how hip tightness or he doesn't run smooth and how that transitions to what you're talking about and translate that into the average fan being able to understand how good and how smooth and how impactful he can be at full speed when he changes direction, and how that is a difference maker in terms of how you judge and assess players?
Well, a lot of times you'll find DBs, especially safeties, who aren't necessarily the same level athlete as corners are. You'll find those guys, you'll see those guys, they're a little bit stiff-hipped. They play a little bit more erect in their stance and the play. So when the ball's in flight, if they're in a back pedal, it takes longer for those guys to drop their hips and turn. A lot of times they can't drop their hips, so it's just a turn, and that first step is not. It creates a shorter. If you're stiff, it creates a shorter gait. Okay, so if you're flexible, you can bend, turn. Those first, second steps are explosive steps going toward the angle that you're going to or going toward the ball. If you're stiff and you're tight, and you're probably again more erect, then you have a tougher time flipping those hips. And that first step is usually a shorter step. And, football is a game of inches. If you can't go from point A to point B to either get a PBU, to defend the pass or intercept the ball, then you're giving up a touchdown, more than likely, or a big play, an explosive play. So he's able to do that. I'm not going to say like a corner, but in a manner that it doesn't impede his ability to make plays on the ball. And again, you see you see safeties that will play 3-4 years, have one interception. This guy's got 15 career interceptions. So it's something to be said for that. He's got really good hands, obviously. But safeties that can play like an outfielder, that can turn their hips, run to a point, snag an interception or get a PBU, those guys are invaluable. Okay. And I like to say all the time, sometimes you see guys, especially in the secondary, I say they have feet for hands. That means the ball is beating them up, hitting them in the face mask. This guy that rarely happens to because he's got good hand-eye coordination. And again, with 15 interceptions, that tells you that he's a bit of a ball hawk.
Yep. And what do you tell a wide receiver that can't catch? You tell him to go over on defense and go play corner or safety, right?
Defense.
Yep. Hey, Brian, real quick, some of the numbers. 7 passes deflected. We mentioned the 4 interceptions. He does have a touchdown out of that, forced fumble. So he's averaging something where he's breaking up a pass or getting a pick every game, at least on average. That's it. My concern right now is against the run game and injuries, right? He had been hurt before. He is a little bit smaller right now, but when he has to come up to the line of scrimmage and let's say he's that 7th or 8th guy in the box, and he's going against a 300-pound lineman that all he wants to do is just push the safety out of the way. He doesn't have to pancake him, but just make him so he's a non-factor and doesn't make the play. Is that an issue at all for you?
I mean, obviously, it's always going to be an issue, but he didn't have that problem at TCU. You know, it's obviously going to be a different animal once you go to the professional game, and teams might try to pick on that. But listen, he's a strong dude, right? He's very, very quick. I think the ability to get around guys right now more so than anything in the run game is probably going to benefit him. I don't necessarily think you're going to want him to be doing a lot of run fits, right? I don't think that's his bread and butter. That's not his game, but there's always room for improvement. He can always get better, right? They're always going to teach him different stuff. He's going to put on weight. It's going to happen, right? A team's going to say, hey, we need you to bulk up a little bit. It might not necessarily be all at once, right? An example of this is Brandon Ingram, who's a basketball guy. When the Lakers drafted him, he was 175 pounds soaking wet, right? They're like, hey, we need you to play over 205, but we're not going to do it all at once. The first year, we're going to have you put on 6 pounds, then we'll have you put on 7, then we'll have you put on 9, things like that. And he'll learn to play at a heavier weight. And I think, he'll use his athleticism, obviously, to negate some of the stuff that we're looking at as far as the durability issues. I think he's good enough in the passing game, and I think he's good enough in the secondary to where, you kind of overshadow some of that stuff. But if you got a good enough front seven, I don't think he's going to have to be making a ton of tackles anyways, right? And the amount of tackles, I think he had 68 tackles last year. I think he had another 56 this year. He's proven that he's a good tackler. He can play near the line of scrimmage. You don't love it, but he's done it. And I think, at least right now, I'm not really too worried about it. If you look at the tape in training camp and in the preseason, and then early on in the regular season, you're having issues with it, then yes. But as of right now, it's not a huge concern for me. It's something you're thinking about, but he's proven otherwise on the field. So there's too much talent with this kid, and he's too electric to worry about that at least at this given time.
Joey, I'm thinking in training camp, a guy that is able to, even in one-on-ones or in 7-on-7s, to get his hand in and kind of deflect the pass or make it more difficult for somebody to come through, and even a tight end to be able to catch it cleanly. It makes an impression. And also, another plus in his favor, as Brian brought up very early in the conversation, is his ability to make a team on special teams as well, being one of those guys that can do everything except maybe on field goal protection. If he can block a kick or at least be one of those outside rushers, if he can do punt and punt protection, obviously kickoff and kickoff return, his body will be used quite a bit, won't it?
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about the weight, to be quite honest with you. He'll naturally get bigger and better. He might be a high metabolism guy, which means he may, and they have equipment for that. He'll wear that, and I'm sure he wore it at TCU, but definitely in pro football where they'll figure out how much weight he loses during practice. I mean, we've had guys lose 10 pounds during practice a day.
Yeah.
And you have to, they need to be hydrated differently, and they'll figure that out. If he's one of those guys coming from Texas, down in Fort Worth, and it's really hot, and he needs to hydrate, but he may be a guy that's 210 in the off season, and then once the season happened with the sweat and the youth, all that stuff that we don't have at this point in our life, that the weight comes off easy, because he's a young guy that runs for a living. So I'm not really that concerned with the weight, the 185. I mean, he'll eventually play between 195 and 205. So I'm not really concerned about that. It'll come on eventually. But from a skill set perspective, he is a guy that you see gets his hands on a lot of balls from a PBU, a pass defender standpoint, a tip ball standpoint, an interception standpoint. He has a knack because he's got pretty good football acumen. You can see it on the field. He's got really good awareness, and he does a good job of breaking on things when he sees it. So I'm not super concerned. I think Caleb Downs will be the first safety taken, just because he's certainly a coach on the field type player, and all these other attributes we talk about he has. And I think it's this guy and another guy we talked about last week that'll be they'll be the top three guys that are at the safety position taken off the board. But I'm not super concerned with some of the things about Bud Clark, because I know from a physicality standpoint, he doesn't shy away from anything. He's tough and he's physical. He can tackle. He didn't turn things down. And from a range and ball skill standpoint, I mean, he obviously has that.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, you're right. The talent's there in so many different ways. Brian, give me one final thought here and a reason why Bud Clark should be on everybody's list.
He's a gamer. He's a baller. He's a playmaker. There's just so many different things that he does Having a guy like him play safety, he's so comfortable in his role, right? He does so many things very well. He flies around the field. He's always looking to make a play. And I think he's always looking to get the ball and go the other direction with it. And, there's not a lot of guys with that mentality that have the acumen, like Joey mentioned, the skill and the athleticism to back it up. But he's one of those guys that absolutely has it. If you watch him play, he's just everything he does, he's flying around the field, playing like his hair's on fire. And he's looking to make a play every single time, the ball is snapped. And it's a lot of fun to watch him. The tape it jumps out at you, really. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great player. I think some team is going to be very, very happy having Bud Clark anchor their secondary in the 2026 season.
Yeah, young guy. He was a senior. He's out of Alexandria, Louisiana. You mentioned LSU and Oklahoma. There are some other schools that were vying for him, but he ended up going to TCU and making a name for himself there as a Horned Frog. We want to say thank you to all of you who are tuning in, and we hope that you like or subscribe to the show. And if you do, please share it with somebody else and help us to grow our network. For Joey Clinkscales, for Brian LeBel, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in to the NFL Draft Prospect Show that we have here, featuring Bud Clark, the safety out of TCU. And it's all a part of the 100 Yards of Football program, and we want to thank you for